Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Shafrahim bin Ahmad Ridwan, and today, for the families building, I'm gonna talk about Basilica San Marco, which is a church that is located on the eastern end of Saint Mark Square, and this church is a former political and religious center of the Republic of Venice. So next, we're gonna see the table of contents and all the topics that will be covered in this presentation. The first one is all the interesting states of Basilica San Marco, and next, its history. The next one is background, and number four, status. Number five is the end users, and the last one is the sculpture. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next slide, which is the first content, interesting traits. So for your information, this church divided into two parts, which is the lower and the upper. For the lower part, the part is dominated by five deeply recessed portals that alternate with large piers. The lower register was later completely covered with two tiers of precious column, largely spoiled from the Fourth Crusade. So for the next one, which is the upper parts, the upper part is enriched with an elaborate Gothic crowning, executed in the late 14th to 15th centuries, and the original lunettes transformed into ogee arches, and outlined with foliage, and top is statues of four military saints over the lateral lunettes and the Saint Mark flanked by angels. Over the central lunettes, the point of which contained the winged lion of Saint Mark holding a book with the angel salutation, which is Pax tibi parce evangelistamu, which is mean peace to you, Mark, my evangelist. So we're going to skip on the Gothic crowning, and we're going to go to the channel and choirs chapels. Fun facts. The channel was enclosed by a Gothic altar screen on 1394. It is surmounted by a bronze and silver crucifix, flanked by statues of the Virgin and Saint Mark, together with the 12 apostles. On the left of the screen is the amble of four readings from scripture, while on the right is the platform from which the newly elected Doge was presented to the people. And so for the last one is side altar. The side altar is the transept were used primarily by the faithful. In the northern Crossum, the altar was originally dedicated to Saint John the Evangelist. The mosaics in the dome show the aged figure of Saint John, surrounded by five scenes of his life in Ephesus. The stone relief of Saint John, placed on the eastern wall of the Crossum in the 13th century, but later it was moved to the northern facade of the church. It was probably when the altar was dedicated in 1617 to the Madonna Nicosia, a venerated Byzantine icon from the late 11th century. So that is for the parts of intrinsic traits. We're going to go for the history. The history of Saint Basilica Saint Marco, which is the relics of Saint Mark, which lay protected under the basilica now, were smuggled out of the Alexandria, Egypt, by Venetian merchants in 1898. This kidnapping occurred when the Arab government of the Alexandria threatened to destroy the sanctuary of Saint Mark to use its marbles. The original basilica, which was built inside the complex of Doge Palace, burned down in 928 during the revolt against the Doge. Petro Canivana fall. So for the next ones, we're going to go for the background. In its original form in 829, which is consecrated in 832, as an ecclesiastical structure to house and honor to the remains of the Saint Mark that had been brought from Alexandria. While the magnificent work by both Byzantine and Italian architects is evident in the cathedral, its grandeur of accentuated by the famous four bronze horses and the Madonna Nicosia brought to Venice from Constantinople during Fourth Crusade. And then for the next one is the status of the Basilica San Marco. Basilica San Marco is with the length of 75.76.5 meters, which is 251 feet, and the width is 62.6 meters, which is 205 feet. And the outer height and inner height is 43 meters of outer height and 28.5 meter for the inner height. So we're gonna go for the end users. The end users is someone who used to use the Basilica San Marco itself. So in the last user of this Basilica San Marco is in 1807. The Basilica became the see of the Patriarch of Venice until at the San Pedro Castello. So for the last so for the last one is sculpture. There is no other building as rich as St. Mark's in the sculpture of such different types, epochs, and origins. In the 12th and 13th century, French cathedrals are certainly richer, but consist chiefly of works created in the place for which they were intended of works surviving from pre-existing buildings. And then for the next slide is artifacts pictures of Basilica San Marco from different angles. So that's all from me. I hope you guys can understand what I'm trying to present and you can use it for the future. Thank you very much.